Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of the Wayward Black Woman Podcast. And I'm your host, Alicia Gray, or AM Gray if you like. Welcome today. Sorry we had a brief hiatus last week. I've been traveling and really kind of busy. So, that's no excuse, but there's been so much going on. I really wanted to pinpoint one or two things that I thought were significant to speak about, because oftentimes there's so much that's going on. I really can't say that all of the things are going to be items that I really, really want to focus on. So today, what I wanted to focus upon primarily was the most obvious, at least to me it is, and that's the weaponization of white supremacy within the current administration. There are so many different ways that this administration has weaponized white supremacy, and this may be actually true. It seems as if they waited 30 or 40 years putting this together. Considering the intelligence level of some of these people, it may have taken them that long to come up with this plan in order to engineer this false narrative where they're being victimized. Now you think to yourself, how long does it take to make up a lie? A long time, because it's a lie. You also have to have some form of alternate understanding of why you believe all of this has happened. So we must look at what caused this to happen and whether or not these things were actually planned themselves, or if they were just something where it happened organically, right? Or I should say they happened, because there really are two different distinct events. The first one, of course, illegal immigration, which was pretty much allowed by the entire Biden administration, giving it time enough to build up and create a problem, create angst, create anxiety, create many different scenarios which we knew were out of control. However, I've been talking about this issue since the year 2000. Yes, dears, I'm 50 years old this year. And I remember before there was mass immigration from primarily Hispanic and Latino people, and then later on everyone else. We've always had an integrated system, especially where I grew up. We've always had lots of immigrants and lots of diversity. We have lots of military bases, as I mentioned before, so we get a lot of influx in and out of all types of people. So I've always had a diverse background growing up, no matter how, poor that we were. We still went to school with rich folk. They bussed us. So, there was this understanding back in the 80s when I was in elementary that we should have diverse education no matter what our income level is. And at places like New York and places like that, they bus kids too. A lot of places did. Now, whether this was right or wrong, it's a lot different than it is today, where these kids primarily grew up around one another and their little cliques, African American cliques here and Asian cliques there and white cliques. It was, pull your self up, get your books, go to school. If you don't fit in, that's the way it is. You don't have the money to participate in projects that you're actually qualified for, academically, tough, suck it up. That's the way it is, in a lot of places, I'm sure still today, but it definitely was that way back in, my time. But before all of that, I had never seen a Hispanic gang because most of them were on the West Coast. And I distinctly remember having a nightmare about Hispanic gangs, and it was so foreign to me at that time that I remember having it. And I thought, this is so ridiculous. Hispanic people, they're on the West Coast. Why would I be, having these types of aberrations? Now, for me, I have a high spiritual nature. So I tend to vibrate really high as far as understanding things within that perspective. So sometimes when this happens, it's telling me something, and I do listen to, my dreams and my thoughts, kind of like in the Jungian perspective, where, Carl Jung talked a lot about dream psychology. And so when we're talking about understanding and interpreting your dreams, I do, in that understanding, have a specific understanding of that. So when we're talking about interpretation of our dreams, it told me something. And we're talking at least 10 years before we actually had a large influx on the East Coast of immigration. Now, was this again an artificial type of infiltration where it was kind of a non-organic way of putting people in different places because there was an overfill? I can't really say. And I'm not talking about just with Biden where he, specifically busts people from the border because they ran out of space in certain places. It was something where it started a long time ago, where the gangs started to spread out. And at first it was the Bloods and the Crips, you guys remember. And then they, went into the other gangs, the African American gangs against the Hispanic gangs, especially in California. That's still going on. And then it was, the Bloods and the Crips had a truce or something, and then they started fighting the other gangs. All of this stuff. And, back in the day, I tweeted a lot about the CIA and their infiltration of the black community and how they helped to create these gangs. There's still videos on YouTube. You guys can go watch them. It gives a very long, in-depth explanation in a series about how the CIA infiltrated not only Latin America, which is in the textbooks. I mean, that's literally sociology textbook time, which Trump wants to get rid of. But it's also history. And we talk about, how the CIA helped to infiltrate hip-hop or rap, and along the years, how it has been incremental within the black community to expect some type of chaos. It's something that people will not understand in our community if there isn't a certain amount of chaos or stress or something to create this environment that they have made us used to. So I don't even think at this point people realize that a lot of these things that are occurring may not be organic. And we do know that, people in my age group as well, that rap has changed quite a bit. Conscious rap was very, very big when I was young. And people such as Tupac and, especially the early days, they talked a lot about the consciousness. I mean, Brand Nubian, and this is before they went into their talking about women phase. A lot of the early Queen Latifahs and, on and on and on. I mean, 90s was a golden age of rap where people were just discovering that they could actually have people listen to them about conscious issues. However, when the record companies started realizing that, number one, they could make money off of the black community, right? Not only by selling to white communities after a certain amount, because it's well known that after a million people, the black community, as far as sales go, you need to sell to alternate audiences in order to make money. That's when they came out with Eminem, right? And I was thinking that was one of the worst things that Dr. Dre ever did. But he did that because he knew he was going to saturate the market with Tupac. So he decided to change the game, switch it up, and bring somebody out that he knew was going to help him cross over and get those sales from the white community. That was monumental. And I've never seen people accept a white rapper as much as this dude. Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't have skills, but he's nowhere near as good as people believe him to be. And he's definitely not someone who is without psychological problems. And that is the worst thing, to have a black boy, as we call him, or a young black male be confused about a woman who raised him. See, he could not have at that time, meaning Dr. Dre, or Dre, whatever he's going by these days, he could not have a black man or a young black male, adolescent, talk about his mother, because he knows that 70% of the black community is raised by single moms, and it has been that way since the 1980s. He also knows that black women are the backbone and the pillar of the African American society. So if you go against a black woman and start having all types of psychological issues about how you hate women, especially during that time frame, people are going to side-eye you and think something's wrong with you, mentally. But it's okay to have a white guy model this, quote unquote, model it for a young black audience, especially young black males. It's also toxic, right? And at the time, we didn't know about his abuse allegations with Miss Chalet, his ex-girlfriend or fiance or whatever. We had no idea that was going on. And we didn't find out recently about his abuse allegations regarding his ex-wife that he just recently divorced. We didn't know anything about that. Before, TikTok and YouTube was really big and people were all into celebrity gossip and so forth, we really didn't pay attention to the lives of these so-called celebrities as much as what we do now, right? The Wendy Williams era. Because, these are just performers. These are just artists. These are just people that are in the business. We don't perceive that as being more important than ourselves. At least we didn't. Because that'd be ridiculous. We liked Michael Jackson and New Edition and so forth and so on, but it was just a performance, right? Like a circus at some points. We understood the game. But as kids became more shallow, they were unable to discern the difference between the game and reality. And this is what the record companies love, the production companies, the media circus made a killing off of these youth and their shallowness, and they're still making a killing off of it, right? It is an entire business, and in some instances, some people believe it is the business at this point. Like, you don't even need to sell the music, you don't need to sell the product. If it's a book or if it's a series or whatever, you just need to sell the controversy, especially those regarding the people that are involved in it. Cue this Blake Lively, whatever situation that's going on now. I don't even know if I've ever even remotely cared about her. I've heard about it only maybe once or twice, but I've heard her name within the last month like 1,000 damn times. People love it when people like Johnny Depp's ex-wife and her claim sexual harassment or sexual assault or whatever as a white woman, and then they disprove her, because then that means, and I'm going to go into my next subject because it's the same thing, that means it's across the board for all women, especially black women, when they claim sexual assault and things of that nature. And we all know that that's a lie. Of all people, black women have the most rape and sexual assault across the board. And I'm going to say black, but I'm going to say black and indigenous, because I always remember, and you should as well, that we need to remember the missing and murdered black and indigenous women, because it's black and indigenous women, right? And some of us are both. But this is something that's a misnomer, that we can put white on top of everything and it replaces the actual truth. And we have a tendency to keep doing that because it's easier, it's lazy, it's our insecurity that we're afraid to admit to, some of us, where we'd rather just go with the flow than to rock the boat and let people know that what they're doing is wrong. We know that's wrong. It's a propaganda type of situation where they're putting something in front of you so they can say, I told you so. For instance, the Jay-Z situation where they're going to pick some old case and she's going to get scared and run off. The little girl that just accused him, well, she's a woman now, but it happened supposedly when she was a little girl. And then we'll, in our minds, dismiss, phew, I thought Jay-Z might have actually done something. Well, yeah, I hate to tell you, but Jay-Z probably did do something. As if Beyonce wasn't enough to cover, I've already told you about that patriarchal marriage magic. Covers all sins, especially of the men, right? Please. A lot of these R-worders out there are married men, so I hate to tell you. And a lot of these cases of black femicide that I report on daily, they have been married to their partners who they have unfortunately killed later on in life. So, this is going to be posted on YouTube as well, so I'm going to say unalived because it's so silly. They don't like that word. I don't think I'm going to be in the social rankings anyway because they have me blacklisted or whatever, because they don't like people who tell the truth. They prefer people who, again, follow their rules, which are shallow, which are geared towards people who are shallow, geared towards making money, and geared towards giving the industry what they want. And to a certain extent, that's, working. That's just the way that it is. But, on another level, it's not really being truthful, and it really doesn't get to the point or accomplish just as much as it should. I don't have time to play around. I'm an educator, I'm an activist, I'm an intellect. I don't necessarily want to present it to you in a way that's comfortable for you. I want you to feel uncomfortable so that you can do something about it. I'm an agitator in that way purposely so that you can understand that this should be taken seriously. I mean, I like to have fun like everyone else, but when it comes to our society and our community, especially in the African American community, we tend to take things too lightly. We tend to be in denial. And there's a lot of denial going on. Because if you're not listening to what I'm saying, something's wrong with you. I know that there's some type of campaign or something against me, which I think is the dumbest thing ever. It's like someone telling you that their name is something, and then you're going around and people are telling you their name isn't that. Oh, she's lying. Her name's not that. I have a name tag on that says my name is that. I have my name on all my apparel and on my books at school, and my name tag at my desk. Oh, that's not really her name. And because you have low self-esteem, you choose to believe what they say. And what would you like for me to do about that? Oh, that's just her maiden name. She just doesn't want people to know she's married. There's a hyphen. She just doesn't use it because of whatever made up story about an invisible husband that never was. I mean, you could go down a rabbit hole forever. And they were married and they got divorced, and now she's lonely, so she doesn't want people to know. I mean, it could go on and on and on. He was abusive, and and none of this is going to occur to the person that you're actually talking about. I hope you know that, because you're making it up. Now, as you go into that in-depth rabbit hole sort of situation, you're really entering into a phase of, mental illness. Because if the person that you're talking about doesn't know what you're talking about, and either you're deriving some type of enjoyment from it because you're jealous, or because you're just being hateful, or because of your own insecurity, you must at that point examine yourself and ask yourself, is it really worth it for you to participate in gossip, immaturity, this type of social deviance in order to make yourself feel better or to alleviate your own insecurity? Is it even worth it? Because it's causing you more agitation than what it's causing me. I guarantee you that on any day. It's just not worth it. And I think that it does encourage people to harass people, to stalk people, to pretend even further, right? We're not children. I don't have time to deal with what other people pretend, quote unquote. And I say that quite often because it's true. Don't pretend. It's annoying. If you're a child or you have a mental health problem, I think it's quite normal sometimes for people to daydream. I'm not talking about daydreaming and using your imagination and being a wonderful person, writing great stories. We need those people in our community and in our literature and in things we watch on, whatever we're watching, our streaming services or whatever. Because we lack that imagination because, as I said, before the industry doesn't want you to be that type of person. So I'm just saying, be a Buddha, be a big person, be a person that understands that when wrong is wrong, you need to back down. And I'm completely over that. I don't have any more patience for negativity and immaturity. I'm just here to let you know it's not my job to carry people. I do it because I want to, not because I have to. And this has been a situation where people have taken my kindness for weakness. I don't have to help people. I can see through these things like I can see through water, a clear glass of water. And for me, it's just secondhand. I grew up with a lot of this racism. I grew up with a lot of this sexism. I can define it academically, left and right. It's not hard for me. For some people, they struggle with that just because they doubt themselves. But please believe me when I tell you, there's no doubt in my mind what's going to happen. I can see what's going to happen. But it's going to happen only if you let your insecurity push it further. I can't help you with that anymore. I know you listen to this podcast. I know that there are no views on it on whatever platform it's on, but I know you're listening because some people are just that insecure about themselves. They just can't help themselves. They got to hear from somebody else. What did she say? What is she doing? Because you know you're wrong. And they also try to, at that point, why not take advantage of this person and steal their ideas for their podcast or their videos or a portion of it. Hey, we all do it. We all watch podcasts, and I'll think, sometimes I'll watch something and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a good topic. I'll talk about that. For instance, but I tend to reference mine. I'll reference mine, such as this person I just finished watching. I just posted on my Twitter or X account. Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter. There you go. And it's about DEI, CRT, and all of these misnomers that are purposely being created by the white supremacist establishment. Woke. This is a larger meaning, and I talked about this a long time ago when Ocasio-Cortez and the Squad and all of those cornball people were coming into office, and they were saying they were diverse and we're what people want, because they weren't our choice. They were the choice of the Democrats' version of quote-unquote diversity. And this is in the textbooks as well for those of you guys who have degrees or whether you have them or not. In sociology, diversity is a loaded word. Literally is the phrase that's used. Loaded. Because you can load it up with all the crap that you want to, or you can use it just as it's supposed to be used, as just an academic term. They loaded it up in a Democrat. We're going to put people from Africa, in this specific portion of Africa, we're going to put people to leadership. We're going to put, that woman from Boston, we're going to put her in here. And she's supposed to be, I mentioned the other day, fighting reparations for the late senator that died. We're going to put these people in here and hope for the best. We're just going to mix it up. Oh yeah, we're going to put the Hispanic chick in here because we know that Black Americans are going to go along with white liberalism. That'll work with the Ocasio-Cortez in there. Mix it all up. This will work because this is what white liberalism thinks. This is what neoliberalism thinks specifically. And we must understand both white and neoliberalism have a tendency towards racism, just as, the very covert white supremacist regime that we have now. They're both the same. One is covert, one is overt. One is in the open, one is covered. It doesn't matter. I knew this from the time I was 10 because we saw this in the supermarket every time we went there. If it wasn't spelled out in a textbook later on in academia, it was right there in front of us. We know the difference. Whether you call me the N-word in passing or whether you say it, to my face. We know what you just said. We know what you meant to say, even if you didn't say it loud enough. We knew it, and when that store came to town, it was called A&P at the time, and I remember asking my mom, hey, what happened to that grocery store? Oh, we ran them out of town because they were racist. And that was mainly overt because, that's the way it was back in the day. Now, because of white liberalism, covering up all the things that are happening, it's very difficult for people to admit that they're happening to them. People are in denial, is what I mean. And so it becomes dismissive, the racism that's happening. And one of the ways, a technique of actually controlling people that liberals use, just as in A Raisin in the Sun, you guys remember, it's always the best metaphor to go as simple as possible. You know, Mr. Lintner, right? He came over and said, well, you know, we're both good Christians, you know, that good Christian fellowship. You know, we don't want you in our neighborhood. We both Christians now. Come on. Can't no black people live in white people's neighborhood now. Because, you know, bigotry is just the way it is between us Christians, you know. And so, again, that's another method growing up we saw quite a bit. People said, well, I'm a good Christian, I can't be racist. That's a lie. I'm a Christian, I can't be sexist. That's another lie. You know, I'm a Christian, I can't beat my wife. That's definitely a lie. And if I get a chance later on, I'll post that case about the pastor who stabbed his wife, or no, he shot his wife several times. And we see that a lot, unfortunately, still. It's been that way since the 80s. They operate in two different worlds. They sometimes are also, you know, R-worders, child molesters, and traffickers now, yeah. And they're in the church. So we don't pay attention to patriarchal religion as being a moniker of truth and honesty. You can be whatever religion you want and still be a criminal. So as far as going back to what I'm saying about this post, the author basically, you guys can see it on my X page, decided that he wanted to tell the truth, which I had not heard, and I had mentioned it several times in several different ways, the exploitation of the black community within the redefinition of our own literature. Now hear what I say. We have studied our own literature for years and years and years. When black women specifically, bell hooks and a number of people that have been studied worldwide came out and started letting people know, Kimberly Crenshaw with intersectionality, bell hooks, this ain't no pushy, excuse me, this ain't no pussy-ish, right? I have cotton mouth today, you guys are gonna have to forgive me. With lupus, it comes and goes, you know? So it's gonna be one of those days, but I'm gonna push through. So they started teaching about black feminism to everyone. Sorry about that. So people in, especially England and places like that, people in Africa. And you know, people in Africa study our literature, you know, from Garveyism on. They study our literature now in large amounts as well. So people around the world started to listen, especially to black women and black folk, and start learning about racism and oppression, not only in our community, but what had happened in Africa and beyond. And there's a lot of vloggers up here now that look at us and they're learning about what's happening in America. Don't be forsaken and think that they're not. They're learning. They're looking. So as our community and the community around the world became better educated, white supremacy said, we can't let this happen. They're getting too smart. Time for plan B. So here we come with this dumb plan that we see now. Do absolutely nothing. Let immigration be completely unregulated, which no country on this planet has done ever. Have no idea what's going on with the money. Give away billions to Ukraine, billions to, Israel, and then try to put it, which is what Donald Trump's next phase is, on the poor people in the country. Oh, it's entitlement programs. Could be going to gangs, could be going to this and that. Of course, because the immigrants were getting more money than the poor people that were actually citizens in the United States. That's why, because it was planned that way. You see, the dumping, which eventually is going to end up being, even if black people aren't the majority of the people on welfare, it's still going to end up inadvertently pointing to us. And that's what the video was about, and this is what this discussion is about. You are always the target. Trust me, especially black women, because you're the backbone. You'll go out and get the job. You'll be the mayor. You'll be the district attorney. You'll go out and you work 2 jobs. You'll take care of the kids. In a way, you're the dog of society, the mule of the earth. Still. And they know it, because they know that you can do what you have to do for your family, and you're good at it. You're smart. You're academic. You'll come up with all of these research papers, literal dissertations, and go out on tour and talk on interviews about your subject matter all around the world, and people will start to learn. And that makes us a target. On top of that, how do you discredit something that's been learned all over the world unless you give it a new meaning? And I told you guys this with colorism. They're going to try to weaponize it. I'm going to put dark-skinned people against light-skinned people and make light-skinned people apologize to dark-skinned people, because it wouldn't make any sense for you to make white people apologize for all the years of actual discrimination and colorism that they implored upon both of us. If you're smart, you'll get it. As I've said before, I can see right through it. And I saw it coming. I'm not the type to say I told you so. I'm trying to get you to the point where you don't have to have me say anything, because you should be saying, I can see it coming. And if you're not, then I'd say at that point, we're probably all screwed. It's raining outside and thundering, so, even though it's 85 out, I'm not complaining. I'm not in the snow. I'm loving the weather. We're still getting the shower, so it's fine by me. But if you hear thunder in the background, that's what you're hearing. So back to what I'm saying, the weaponization of the critical race theory. Critical race theory is an academic theory within the black community, which doesn't even describe even 3% of the literature that we have studied within black academia. It is a theory that isn't embraced by everyone. It is a critical race theory. That's what it is. And if you actually study CRT in depth, you will understand the differences within CRT and the other academic disciplines, which help to guide the black community. CRT does not mean every single thing from slavery to what has happened today, basically black history. CRT is not anything that distinguishes African American people as having their own individual identity, as these white supremacists want to make it. Common sense, right? As Donald Trump says. So why don't they use it? And why don't we make them use it? Because you're scared. That's why. You don't speak up for yourselves. You don't stand up together against any issues. You won't speak on it because you're terrified, and they know it. When someone has leverage against you and they think you're scared, they're going to push the agenda. They change the definition. If something isn't working and you're losing a fight, you cheat. Period. Point blank. They're cheating. I'm going to see these kids are waking up, and waking up means woke. I get it now. I'm woke. I understand what's happening to me. I understand the definitions of things. I understand from this literature I'm learning in schools that something's happening that's not right. I'm woke now. That's what that means. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm awake. How can I make this negative and weaponize it against the black community? Oh, I know. I'll add in some crazy, I don't like the term crazy, let's say some silly gender apparition where I'm going to be 23 different genders or whatever comes up next, and I'm going to attach it to being woke, which no one else has done except for white people. So that means I'm woke now. Now, we can go into black feminism, and some of the people after third wave feminism, I will be honest, got a bit carried away with it. Okay, they got a bit more entitled than what we'd like to say. Black feminism pretty much, I think, at the point of third wave, was hijacked and co-opted, and I talked about all of that with Kimberly Crenshaw and how that happened and why that happened with the white women's movement and the women's march and all of that. You know, with bell hooks, and I recently had a discussion between, you know, a person. I wasn't trying to be rude or mean or something, but it's very well known that there was a conversation about this, you know, where bell hooks knew, you know, that her white friend had infiltrated, you know, the burning your bras person, I'm not going to say her name, from the 60s on, had infiltrated the black community or tried to with white feminism. And there was a sharp difference. She wasn't out there in the women's movement before she passed away, the late bell hooks, but Kimberly Crenshaw was. And the problem, which I immediately saw, was intersectionality could be co-opted to include gender, and not just black women being a specific gender, being women, but 23 different genders. And Kimberly Crenshaw had basically said from the beginning, intersectionality was racism and sexism. It was the racism against black women and the sexism that black women experienced specifically in the workforce. She said that multiple times. I will give her that. But she didn't stand her ground when they added the 23 different gender scenarios. And she really needed to do that. Now, I can understand the pressure of academia, not wanting to lose her job, not wanting to go against the LGBTQIA, even if they're even adding the QIA at this point, I don't know. Who knows? That particular, as they call it, the mafia, no one wanted to go up against them. I get it. But it also put us into a very vulnerable position, which put us where we are right now. Black women had to separate from that because we were being exploited. You don't have to support every single understanding of the queer, and even the queer and transgender community is separating from the gay community, as I just mentioned, because of the controversies of saying women can't be women without accepting that men in some instances are going to be better than women, and then, you know, fighting with women to prove that they're better than women when they're transgender. Silly stuff that was going on, because as this agenda started to really spiral out of control and expand and expand and expand to the point where it was about to explode, we saw women experiencing more violence than they would from patriarchal men. So traditional male toxicity, such as in the Donald Trump situation, was better than actually having toxicity from trans men, or I guess they would be trans women, I don't know, come forward, was better in a sense. You know, I don't know what type of violence is better, one is better than the other. Then they chose the Donald Trump violence, that traditional male violence, the toxicity from the traditional masculinity, because at that point, at least they could understand it. If you're getting someone to attack you and you don't understand why, we're supposed to be allies here. We're feminists, we're supposed to be allies. But at that point, you saw as well. Sorry, my son was using the microwave here. Putting a pizza in the microwave. So back to what I was saying. So if you have to choose between the lesser of two evils, and both are violence, you're going to choose what you perceive to be, unfortunately, the most familiar to you, right? This is like, okay, I have violence from my first husband and from my second husband. Which one is going to be less dangerous? One put me in the hospital and one just gets upset and pushes me around a bit. Now, I'm using this as an example because both are ridiculous, right? This is what's happening to the American public. It is cognitive dissonance, but it's also quite simplistic. And it's very easy to do. All you have to do is make people too afraid to speak up for themselves. And that's what's happening to the Black community. And, the new buzzword, of course, is DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Now, the basic academic definition of DEI is, diversity. I told you the loaded word, equity, making things equal, and inclusion, putting different types of diverse people within different spaces, which are normally primarily going to be held by white folk. However, as Du Bois said, or I'm not going to say Dubois, or I've even heard Dubois, that's cute, whatever, Du Bois, make it plain. As Du Bois said, we need to just talk about Black folk as plain folk. Period. If they don't like it, they don't like our jazz, they prefer opera, and I do listen to opera from time to time, but this is just a metaphor, then maybe they shouldn't listen to it because maybe that's too complex. Don't just discount yourself because you're a Black person and think your style of music, your style of dress, your understanding is lesser than theirs. And in a way, a specific way, it is a metaphor for white supremacy because I've redefined your terms for you and you're not going to do anything about it. I told you DEI meant this. I don't even have any education above whatever, because I don't even look at Black literature because it's not worth my time. And I'm going to tell you that this is what it means. I'm going to tell you that I think woke means, because I heard you Black kids talking about that, and I'm going to redefine it as this, and you're not going to do a damn thing about it. This is what I'm talking about. Now, I see you learning about that CRT. At least I think all of it's CRT, because critical race theory is the most threatening to me. So I'm going to call all of it CRT because I don't even have time to deal with understanding you people. And for those of you guys who grew up during that time frame, you know what you people means. Right. You know it. They don't have to say it. All that stuff you people be learning. I don't care what it is. It's all CRT. That blatant disregard. It's all DEI. Whatever you want to call it. It's stupid because you people made it up. Since you made up something, I'm going to make up something too. And I'm going to give it my definition. And my definition is going to have more power because I'm white. This is a white supremacist society. This is a white supremacist strategy. This is a white supremacist move, period. It's stupid. Again, I don't like the word stupid, but that's what it is. They think you're scared. They think you're scared to say what I just said, what the vlogger said, who I posted about, and you won't stand up for yourself, period. If you're not scared, they know you're confused because you yourself haven't studied what critical race theory actually is. And for those of you who don't know, coincidentally, Kimberly Crenshaw, the author of the term intersectionality, was also critical and one of the writers of critical race theory. She was critical in that writing. So, yes, this also involves her as well. And she could have made bold statements about, don't be using me in critical race theory. White people don't even try it. Because understand this, and I do, and I mentioned this at the time. She works for institutions. She works for organizations. She may be associated with people where she can't say anything just because she has a job to do. I get that. Blackmail. It's pretty much what it is. And now you're getting a taste of that same blackmail. I saw it when people were getting ignored about Palestine and standing up for Israel. I saw it coming. People were getting put out of their academic institutions that were great students because they spoke up about a genocide. I saw it coming. This is a major red flag. Your freedom of speech is being taken away, and quite literally, all of your textbooks. I don't think that people understand that Hitler, within the first, I believe it was 45 days, had an agenda and wanted to make sure he did things as quickly as possible within that time frame because he wanted to make sure that he wouldn't get caught. And this is very similar. They're trying to rush things through so that you won't have time to figure out what is actually happening. And some of you are already confused. And what I'm telling you is not necessarily common sense as it should be. You don't understand the differences between the Black women's movement, Black feminism, the different phases. You don't understand the difference between how it was co-opted by white women, and you think we're stupid. We know that they co-opted it. We know what was going on, and many people just dropped out of the movement because what can you do? White women still have more power. They still have more social agency, social capital. And I mentioned this as well before. You can get married all you want to, but if you have a Black couple and you have a white couple and you're both in a room and you're at some prestigious event, we'll see how many people step in your way as you're trying to be seated and will jump out of their way to help that white couple be seated. And you're going to find out how much social capital that you have. So those of you who are jumping up and down about single motherhood and how you don't want to be a single mother, I've heard people who are white liberals jump on that bandwagon. I heard someone today hates Elon Musk, hates all of this stuff, and was very upset that he had children outside of wedlock. Now, he's supposed to be someone who's a leftist, as they call him, a white liberal. And he was downing single mothers like you wouldn't believe. Two-parent family, this and that. And when I hear that dog whistle, we want to call it the dog whistle of the century. Run, run, run away. If you were on the fence, I don't care, and I mentioned this about a Black vlogger, a Black female vlogger. Very unusual the way she's caping for Black men like that. If you hear it from a white liberal, or whether you hear it from people who are following Donald Trump around, if you ever hear that sexism and that racism, that intersection right there, because the majority of Black women had to raise our children by ourselves because Black men didn't have the accountability that they should have had for their families from the 80s until now, run away quickly. That person's a bigot. I don't care if they meant to be. I don't care if they weren't trying to be. I don't care if they apologize for it later. Stay away from them. They're trouble. Either they're lying through their teeth or they're the dumbest person on planet Earth. It's not conservative. It's not promoted as being any more a smarter person to get married, because most people know that if you're beat upside your head when you're married or trafficked within a marriage or relationship, as soon as you get divorced, they're going to start putting you down again, even if it wasn't your fault. And, it doesn't make sense to keep promoting a two-parent family as being the only family when you can clearly see there's a problem or a schism within the elevation of male patriarchy. So I don't care how smart they pretend to be or whatever. As soon as you see that bigotry, run for the hills, because either they're scheming and they're con artists and they're up to something, or they're just ignorant. So on that note, I just dropped that Elon Musk has a tribe of children, a cult of sorts, which I have no doubt about. Yeah, it most likely is a cult. And it's okay for white men to do this, right? To drop kids left and right. And for that matter, Nick Cannon. Now, I know he has lupus like I do, so maybe he's having children for various reasons. I don't, want to say it's to get organs from them, as someone said. I would hope not. But could be for other reasons that he's got these women pregnant, and not just misogyny. But if it's misogynist or misogynoir, as we call it with Black men, it's still not acceptable. So basically what you're seeing is blatant white supremacy and chauvinistic behavior from, a white man. Toxicity. Got kids all over town. And, I'm a believer in, as long as you're a decent parent to the children that you have, I have no problem with that. If he's taking care of his children, hey, patriarchy was a contribution to society that was elevated to where it is today because of belief systems that were based partly in a lot of things that were, in all honesty, made up. There were social norms attached to a religion that was partly based upon a lot of sexism, a lot of myths, a lot of things that were implied, and just kind of all came together in this syncretic ball of whatever it is now. So it just depends upon your commitments and your actual, understanding of what you need to do for your own vision of what a family is. And it doesn't always include a man and a woman. As long as you're a good parent and you try your best, that's all it's about. Period. But according to some sources, Elon Musk is not taking care of these children, and that I have a problem with. People like Future, the rapper who goes out and gets women pregnant and then call them names and then not take care of their responsibility. And they were talking about the football player. What's the one from North Carolina? What's his name? Where's the hat? I'm sorry, I don't follow sports. Cam Newton possibly being broke because he got a lot of kids. Well, if he's broke, but he's still loving on his kids the proper way and he's taking care of them, as they say, loving on them. I hate to use that term. It sounds so country and so stupid. But he's taking care of his kids the best he can. I got no problem with that. If he's a deadbeat dad, well, then I got some issues. I don't like these deadbeats out there thinking they got a choice. What's that one, Jenny Mai? We saw her the other day, my daughter and I, on a video trying to get her stuff. She's still trying to get her stuff out of that crazy man's house. There's that term again, crazy. Out of that wild man's house. Won't even let her get to the garage barely to get her stuff. She had the cameras out there and the cops and the court order and all this nonsense. Just had a baby. Now, if he takes care of his kid and they can work that out amicably, he's just a jackass, right? As long as he's taking care of his kid, if they can work it out. A lot of these men, when they feel like they have privilege, male privilege, and in black communities we like to say entitlement because they don't get white male privilege, but it's still pretty much the same thing. And they don't have to take care of their kids. Hey, I'm done with you. I'm done with that kid. It's like, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Immaturity. And then women get the blame for that. And I told my daughter, I said, black men like to piss every race off. It's wrong. But they do this all over the damn world. Drop a kid and go. And it's not because they're black. It's because we let them do it. And then these women cape for them and then blame the women. We have a society where we blame women for the actions of men because automatically women are supposed to have less power. And that's unacceptable. We need to stop doing that. I should say unacceptable. I will make an error from time to time, so if I do, I will try to correct myself. I am not a perfect person. I did not write this down. I'm speaking right off the cuff because I believe that's the most honest way of being. So as we conclude this, I wanted to, just emphasize where we need to be. We need to be honest with ourselves. And I've said this a million times about the black community. I'm so sick of thinking that the black community can't get it together when I know we can. I'm so sick of saying it. I'm so sick of them implementing this whole scheme and campaign against the black community right in your faces, and you believing, oh, they really care about just getting rid of illegal immigrants. I don't believe they're going to stop there, not by a long shot. I do believe that if you don't stand up for yourselves, they're going to go for the legal immigrants. Then they're going to come for black folk who might not be an immigrant because of racial profiling. They can't tell the difference. A few years ago, they were stopping black folks that they thought might be Haitian. We confused you with someone else. Some of us look like Indians because we have Native American heritage. Oh, well, you might be Latino or whatever. Let me see your papers. And all I care about is the let me see your papers part. I don't care what they try to confuse us with. Blasian folk, how do we know you're from this country? How do we know you're not an immigrant? And the thing is, as long as you're not an illegal immigrant, it shouldn't matter. We've gone all the way back because we didn't stand up for ourselves. So for those of you guys who are rah, 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 go Donald in the black male community, understand this. You could be the next target. Understand this. If you're a black liberal and you're going that direction, they're bigots too. So your answer would be to stop the bigotry. And we learned this very young, once again. If you ever see someone leaning towards bigotry in any way, shape, and or form, run for the damn hills and never trust that person again. Everyone has their own belief systems. You may not like gay people. You may not like trans people. You may not want to get involved with any of that discussion. Maybe you don't necessarily dislike anyone in either community, but you just don't want to get involved. That's cool too. But just don't be a bigot against anyone. You may not like single parents. You may not like light-skinned women, dark-skinned women, migrants from different countries. That's cool. No one says you have to fall in love with something, but just don't be bigoted against it. Trust me, it's the golden rule. And that's what white supremacy looks for. Vulnerabilities, leverage. Listen to what I'm saying. It is the one thing for the rest of your life that you can take with you. Trust me, just like a handbag. When people are scheming, they're jealous, they're insecure about themselves, and they want what you have, they're going to look for leverage, insecurities, places they can tap into that you might have maybe, a spot or two they can fit in where you haven't done the best that you can do. And maybe it's because you just simply can't do it. You don't have the resources. You don't have the same money as someone else in the black community. They're going to strike you hard there. They're going to make you the face of the welfare queen, just as Moynihan did in the 80s during Reagan. A lot of this is a pushover from the 80s when Reagan, was in office and then Clinton came in. They couldn't get past Clinton, not all the way, so they had to wait all this time to go back to Reaganomics. That's a long-ass time to be going backwards. That's a long time to have had some sort of freedom to be going ass backwards. So this will teach you not to take things for granted, but it also will teach you to stop letting people take advantage of you. Stop, thinking that everything is about gentrification. I've seen the automatic gentrification of children of immigrants to the point where they automatically think, I don't have to care about the civil rights movement. I don't have to care about what happened before in the black community. We're better than that. I think you need to understand we need to build upon where we came from and never forget that. And before we actually move forward, we have to make sure we never forget. And stop taking people for granted that keep reminding you. Now, I'm not talking about just old school, we shall overcome. I'm talking about Malcolm X. I'm talking about every person that did everything, not just Fannie Lou Hamer, but, ain't I a woman? I want you to understand that was the first intersectional woman thinker, the first black feminist. You understand? Sojourner Truth. Ain't I a woman? You do this for this white woman, but you won't do it for me. Don't I work as hard as a man? Look at my arm. That is intersectional feminism 101. You need to understand your history to see where you're going. And you need to apply that history and make it applicable in everything that you do. And I'm talking to the younger so-called feminists out here who want to be, changing the name of women to something different in the dictionary as if that gives you power because woman has the word man in it. I'm like, what? Womb man, yeah, okay. But is that going to really change anything? Is that going to change the sexism that we experience from men? And again, we see the underpinnings of white feminism within that. I want to go up against men and not really change anything. The pussy hat wearing people. Instead of saying this ain't no pussy-ish, right? Like Bell Hooks said, I'm going to wear a pussy hat around. There's a really big difference, right? I'm just going to wear this pink pussy hat. See, I'm harmless, but I just want to say that we're different from men. Instead of you going up and saying, look, this ain't no pussy-ish. I'm not dealing with it. We've dealt with the Black Panthers treating us badly, and now we want to speak for ourselves as black women. It was black men who treated us badly, as well as white women and as well as white men. And now we have something to say. That's a huge difference in perception. And this is what I'm saying. It's a huge difference in perception for you to admit that you've been taken advantage of. And I just think that black women have, kind of lost our way. Now, I'm not talking about the black feminists who were third wave. I'm talking about everyone else who came in here, the naysayers, the he, giggle, Betty Boops, and the Tiffany Henyards, the blackface circuses who try to make black women look stupid. I'm talking about the ones who want to stand by their man, the country ones who keep standing up for black men even though they know they're beating up and killing their wives and girlfriends and it's a black femicide, and who just keep looking down at the ground and covering it up and not speaking on it, who keep standing by them no matter what they do and blaming black women, saying, I'll never be a single mother. But I'm telling you, they're the ones that always end up being single mothers. You want me to count how many have said that? Let's take it all the way back to old tell Anita Baker. I bet everything on my wedding ring. What happened to her? Divorce. With some kids. Okay? Now, I don't want to talk about her ill-fatedly, but let's talk about Wendy Williams. Never be divorced, honey. Never tell anybody, I'm never getting divorced. And now, whether she had dementia or a mental health issue or a drug problem, what have you, but what was the front? Never happened to me. Not my husband. He's not cheating. What happened? Divorce. A single parent. Every time they do that and they're in denial for a reason. There's a cover-up. You don't need to start thinking negatively about single parenthood because society tells you that it's bad. You know you're wrong, and society is wrong. They should not be requiring everything to have two parents when they know that the other parent may be lacking in their skill set. They should not be demeaning single parents, especially when they're women. I don't see it happen with men, so I'm just going to say it like it is. They demean women because we're still under that toxic patriarchal structure, and that's what it's all about. They don't care if you're religious. They don't care if you're rich. If you don't have a man with you and you have a child, especially in some of these uneducated communities, because you guys know I've been in Asia, it is shocking the amount of patriarchal nonsense that still goes on here. And not just in Islam. In some countries, it's just patriarchy for no reason. Like, some of us can't imagine, it's no offense, an Asian man being hypermasculine and using patriarchy and beating women, putting women down. I mean, we do have the stereotypes of looking under the skirts and all of that stuff on the subways, and that's true everywhere, even in the U.S. Being pervs, they're pervs in the U.S. It doesn't matter what race you are. But the hypermasculinity, when it doesn't apply, if I'm the same weight as you and the same height as you, I mean, I don't know. I don't care if I'm not. I'm not going to put up with hypermasculinity from 1970. I don't know. It's odd, and I'm a black feminist. It's hard for me not to say it, but it's so cringy. Like, why? Now, it's not all Asian men for obvious reasons, But you see the toxicity level of patriarchy right across the board. You see it in Africa and places too. It's really time for that to stop. Don't pull it up with religious patriarchy, because I've already told you many elements, even in the Bible, were contrived. So please be careful. If you see bigotry, understand it goes way more deep than that. This is a strategy. You're playing checkers, they're playing chess. Wake up. They planned this stupid mess out. I really believe so. I believe Biden purposely failed, because no one's that stupid, and didn't do anything on purpose because he knew there'd be a backlash. Not only a backlash against women, because all of these white men can't have all of these women telling them what to do. And Kamala wasn't the person to run in that capacity because she's married to a white man. That automatically makes it silly. They're not intimidated by you. You're coddling them. If they're intimidated by you, what would they do with an actual African-American woman? Because she's not African-American. She might say she's black. I don't know. But she's not intimidating anyone. She didn't talk about any issues that were serious in the black community. She wouldn't even address us, the constituents that were supposed to be voting for her, us, about those issues. She just wanted loyalty. And I'm sorry, I'm not AKA. I'm not, I went to Howard, yes, for a short time. But I can't give loyalty. I need substance when it comes to voting. And when people are addressing me, I expect to be treated like I have good sense and that I'm not some sort of idiot. As the phrase goes, you act as if my name is Little Idiot or something. I actually do think for myself, and I talk to people that I believe think for themselves. So that in itself was an insult to our intelligence level. And I think that was a setup. I don't think it, I know it. We had no one to vote for. So one way of dealing with the reality here is just to face it. We were blackmailed. If you want something to be done at all, because the Democrats would not do it, refused to do it, white liberalism, neoliberalism, the bigot that it is, whether it covers it up very well or not, refuse, because they were giving us a taste of our own medicine. Since you want to be liberal black folk and just go along with whatever we say, we're going to do absolutely nothing and pretend like we don't see any violence or any possibility of violence and deny every single thing that could possibly happen in your community just because, you trust us. That good Christian fellowship trust. You don't want to move into our neighborhood. Come on now, we're all friends. Go to the same church, or we would if we allow for black people to go to our church. You know what I mean. We don't really want you living in our neighborhood. We just cordial and stuff and pretend to be friends and stuff. At work, if you could work at our establishment, you could work as a maid, We're nice to our help. I mean, come on. You're the help of the white liberal community. Don't be foolish. Neither one is right. They're both wrong. You didn't have a choice. I get that. But don't linger in that and support Donald Trump. Yeah, no matter what he does, he's so smart. Come on. This man is doing crazy stuff right now. Silly stuff right now. Do we really need to take over the Panama Canal? Do we really need the Gulf of America? The Gulf of Mexico to be renamed, the Gulf of America? This is a patriarchal nightmare. Is it really? Necessary? It isn't. Is it necessary that we get involved and tell Russia and Ukraine what to do? You can give your advice, but we're going to give a deadline on Palestine and tell them what to do in reference to, because they just need a good, strong man to go in there and tell them what to do in reference to their hostage situation. And we're going to tell them we're going to do this or else, or they're going to do this. This sounds just like white male privilege. It is outrageous. And yeah, there is that type of mafia element to it, but I don't think again, it's anything but implied violence. Because when you get to the point where people don't listen to you and you don't really know how to negotiate, the only thing you can use is more violence in one form or another. Now, sometimes violence you think isn't physical, or excuse me, it's only physical, I should say, and sometimes it isn't only physical. You know, you can employ violence in many different ways. So this is what's happening, and people are in denial. Now, some people get it and they're upset and they're breaking down and stuff. You know, wait till those federal workers who were laid off figure out it's not easy to get another job. Wait till those federal cuts hit. I mean, I've actually seen these white people, primarily Republicans, have the audacity to say that it's entitlement programs, quote unquote, that are causing all of this inflation and trillions of dollars in debt. I know that you people remember, you people again, because you know I'm talking to black folk, those billions of dollars we just gave to both Israel and Ukraine. That's what we call entitlements. You guys hear about those billions we gave to Elon Musk for his businesses and the corporate welfare that he received? We're not counting on that type of entitlement, are we? We're talking about poor people who needed Medicaid and Medicare and food stamps. Are you serious right now? Are you serious? Now, if you're talking about fraud, waste, and abuse, okay, but that's rare. And before the migrant situation, which is what they're really pointing to, but see how you're going to end up being the face of all of this in the black community. Remember the migrant situations where people were saying they were getting $15,000 in food stamps? I don't know what they got. They denied it. I don't know if it was random. I don't know if it was certain people. I don't know if it was certain states. But they were most certainly getting quite a bit of money. I don't deny that. I don't deny there was probably fraud going on. Remember all those millions and billions of dollars given to, open those shelters? Yeah. This is what they're talking about. Entitlements. But then anybody else who's getting these entitlements, who was doing the right thing, you're going to be included. We're going to cut all of your foods. What? Food stamps? What? People out here dodging bird flu. Taxes up to yin-yang. The economy is terrible. People can't afford groceries with or without food stamps. I mean, are you serious? Gas prices still too high. And this man is talking about we're going to cut federal workers out of any type of money. All of them. I'm just going to cut. I don't care. Just get him out of here. Like he owns a business. The United States is his business now. And you guys know about that sovereign citizen situation where they consider us to be, by a social security number, workers at the business of the United States and how they own us and we have stock. And the situation is we're supposed to be able to access that stock, meaning money, using our social security numbers, but you just don't know that. So if we're going to run this like a corporate business, a maritime corporation here, where's our loot? Where's our coin? You're supposed to have hundreds of thousands of dollars attached to your name. Where's our money? Because if he's going to come in and blatantly say the United States is a corporation, as many people have implied and said over and over and over and over again, including Jordan Maxwell, the late Jordan Maxwell, where's our loot? You're being robbed blind. Period. You're being stolen from. In the guise of we're going to overreact because of all the things the Democrats let happen purposely. Now, we're going to scream bloody murder, blame only black people now. And we know the majority of people on food stamps are white. And there's no shame in my game. There's nothing wrong with feeding your damn kids any way you need to, as long as it's legal. So you won't hear any type of shame from me. Absolutely not. Regarding so-called entitlements, because other countries give this money freely. You know why these white countries are so happy? They call them some of the happiest places on earth, and people are so happy there because they give them these entitlements without shaming them. They get help with their rent automatically. They get help after they have a child automatically. They can leave work for periods of time and get paid after having children automatically. They get help with childcare automatically. That's why they're happy, because patriarchy doesn't rule them. That would make you happy too, wouldn't it? If people use common sense. Food prices are lower automatically. You don't have that here. So you're miserable. And yeah, you should be. And until you start standing up for yourself, you're going to continue to be living in misery, along with the rest of us. You're in denial, and I refuse to live in denial. I refuse to blame people. For those of you who are going to start blaming people and believing this stupid mess that the Republicans are telling you, I should say just white folk, because I don't give a darn if it's Republicans or anybody else. I don't get into that leftist right nonsense. That's bull. It's all the same. It's white supremacy. They're telling you that entitlement programs are causing this. Entitlements to whom, or to who exactly are you referring? Yourselves? Corporate welfare? Because that's what the majority of it is. And then he wants to cut USAID. Hey, maybe it was bloated. I don't deny that. But you can't cut off everyone in that program. And yes, USAID may have been used for the migrants, because I told you this is the stem, and it's just this little string that just keeps pulling. And it's just, that's where it started. But that's where it should have ended. And he should have gone piece by piece and figured out which agency, because this is the way it should be done. When it's rushed through, you're going to get robbed, and you're going to end up broken, you're going to end up lost. Period. There's no other way it can be. It has to be done correctly. I don't doubt there's fraud, and there was fraud by the Democrats. I mean, obviously, I was complaining about it with Ukraine and all of this other stuff. Ukraine is known for money laundering, right? Money just disappeared from a lot of these agencies, and people in Ukraine, honestly, were on the bed flossing, as we call it, with money and stuff. You know, taking pictures for the gram. We're not stupid, but as the black community has no power, we're still waiting for reparations from slavery. And these people are flossing with our money. We were given nothing. So we feel powerless, I should say, and they keep that, hood over our heads where we cannot breathe or see, because financially they've disempowered us. Right? Even if we did have monetary funds, because we know money is really worthless, right? It's the attachment to money that people give. They make you feel like you're abundant because you have wealth. If they gave money no power, gold and diamonds and all of that, then you would just have a bunch of gold and diamonds in your house. Suppose you were in another, universe or something like that, And everybody had gold and diamonds. They'd be like, oh, that's just gold and diamonds. And you'd walk in there like, what? You're in another dimension. You guys are rich. And they'd be like, they don't put any value towards that. No, we're not. Everybody has gold and diamonds. Everybody has money. What do you want us to do with this paper? It's because they've attached value to it and entitlement to it. Now, I'm not talking about the spiritual properties of gold and all of that. This is where it started, the value attainment for money, whether you realize it or not. There's actual spiritual properties to crystals and gold and things like that. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about what it is now, which is about to go digital, and we all know everyone's afraid of AI and what's going to happen. And I've already told you, don't be afraid of AI. Step in, lean into it. Use it for what it can be used for. It can detect cancer. It can be used for developing new techniques and artistries, but regulate it properly so that these people who are on the verge of misusing it, once again, another opportunity where they're about to just basically do whatever they want to do. Stand up for yourselves. Don't be afraid of just AI in general. Don't be afraid of the Black feminist movement. Understand how things work, so that you can be intelligent on the issue and you can fight it Don't just be cowards and be afraid and then say, well, I told you something like that was going to happen. I guess it will happen if you don't stand up for yourselves and articulate yourself properly, right? I'm tired of saying that. Don't be afraid. Work together. AI can be used very positively if it's regulated properly. Regulated properly. And that's, as far as crypto, digital currency, and, Trump is trying to take it all the way back. Today he said, or yesterday, BRICS doesn't exist because I told them they don't exist anymore, and all of this heavy-handed stuff. I'm just like, yeah, he told the BRICS countries, hey, cut it out. I told you, you can't go up against the United States, and I'm paraphrasing, and you might as well say they don't exist anymore. I'm like, look, this is white supremacy 101. This is white male supremacy. This is, I have more money than you. I have more toys than you. Therefore, I have more power than you. And it's a matter of, if we're going to stand up for ourselves, if the other countries are going to back down and cower, within this framework of we don't have any power, this is what it's about. It's about power. It's about leverage. These are power moves. And they're bold power moves, dumb as they might be. Because they're really dumb moves. We really could break out with World War III. But it's just about, understanding all these years, and Biden couldn't actually negotiate between these countries the way Trump is. He's like, oh, yeah, I know so-and-so. I'll just go talk to him. We have people with PhDs that couldn't get these deals negotiated. And you have to ask yourself as well, why is this the case? Why is it the case the guy who has swag or charisma with no degree can go out there and get that job making 6 figures, and you have a PhD and you're making 60 grand as a teacher? Why is it that charisma and that swag and sometimes that baloney will carry a person further in our society than someone who actually has good intentions and maybe has the background to do what they're supposed to do? And alternatively, if you think, I'm talking about just Trump or that situation, I'm not. Why do we have people who are within this bureaucracy and this government who just go along with it day to day because it's so backed up that nothing ever gets done and just become cogs in the machine with all these levels of education, and so it becomes superficial and those people don't actually get anything done? And that's what happened with the Democrats. They just don't care anymore. Or they give lip service, or it's about pretending because they're liberal to do the right thing. As long as I try to do something, and then things really don't get done. And that's just as frustrating. So at the end of the day, it's just about us being honest with ourselves. And I know a lot of us aren't as honest as we need to be. We worry about our finances, our families. I know I do. We worry about what people think way too much. And I probably, even though I don't do that as much as many people do, I still kind of do, because I think about my safety. And when people, have tendencies towards mental health issues, they'll get carried away and start to not only, verbally attack people or talk behind their backs or be vicious, but then they'll try to physically come find you and put you in the middle of whatever they've made up in their minds. And it's frustrating because you're looking over your shoulder like, I know this person didn't make up this, that, or the third. For instance, I was recently in an Islamic area and I was walking past this gentleman and he's just staring. Women here don't wear shorts. Heads are always covered. Even in the pool, they wear long leggings. And when you're in that situation, you feel self-conscious, and I hate to say this as a black feminist, but you don't want to overexpose yourself, and not because I'm ashamed of my body, but because of the sexism. It makes you feel like it's a perversion for these people, and you don't want to create any excitement, whereas in other situations, it would be quite normal for a woman to wear a bathing suit without any of these things. So you have to constantly remind yourself of who you are and how a woman should be treated at all times. So this is how it is with Trump. This is how it is with white supremacy. You have to say, I am this person, right? As MLK used to say, I am somebody. I am a man. Well, we need to tell people, we are the black community. We are not backing down. We will not be cheated out of even our basic rights to live in a country that we helped to build literally off the backs of our ancestors who were slaves. We will not have Native American people be treated as immigrants when their land was stolen by these white people in the first place. And no, Native American people are not Latino people. Okay? I believe that's why there's a difference between Native American and Latino, why they're named differently, because they're different people. Now, you may, again, be confused. I'll explain it one more time. And this is primarily because of the way Latin America did this and Central America. They didn't have the same races and understandings that we did because they don't have a whole lot of people that are left over from the original indigenous cultures that might have black people involved with them. We have black people in our country with indigenous heritage. We have people that are Native American that don't have, who are considered indigenous as well, who don't have any type of Hispanic colonization. That is the key. They were not colonized. What is happening, a form of neo-colonization to America right now, or an attempt to recolonize it, right? Now, neo-colonization is normally associated with taking over another country, not our own. But in a sense, that's what's happening, a new form of colonization. And I mentioned this a while back as well, where we're trying to go backwards and recolonize, but in a new way. And we must be careful of that. That is why, it's absurd. He's taking Trump, Native Americans to court to try to disprove their citizenship because they have tribal rights. And technically they're not citizens because it was their land, and only the white people developed the system of citizenship via colonialism. But it doesn't mean they don't have rights to their own land. And it doesn't mean they can be deported, because where on earth would Native Americans be deported to? That's a very dangerous place to be. That's beyond Nazism, right? Like, you don't have a right to exist unless I say that you have a right to exist. And it's obnoxious and it's ridiculous. And who's to say next time you won't say that about African American people? Where are we going to be deported to? And, we're not even there yet, because the next phase of this dumbness, as I've said before, is to try to conflate our identities with some of these immigrant identities. And before that, they're going to conflate the immigrant identities with the migrants that they're deporting. I mean, you can see the formula here, people, right? Wake up. It's stupid. Don't let fear rule you. Before that, they have to make you vulnerable financially, which is why he's waiting on if he gives us any money at all and dispersing any funds, and he's drying up the well first. Leverage. You can't do anything without money. And if I make you desperate, you're going to go along with whatever I say, because I'm going to dry up this well under whatever auspices that I choose. Fraud, waste, and abuse, that has been going on since the 1980s. And all of a sudden, I'm just going to come in, and he says he's saving our country, so he can't do any wrong. You guys saw that tweet. He can't break any laws because he's saving the country. I don't think so. See, and that's cognitive dissonance, you believe, because he's doing maybe something right that he can't do anything wrong. Get real. He can do a whole heck of a lot that's wrong. He can break this country even further than where it would have been before. And then that's what it looks like it's going. So you have to put the brakes on it, right? Understand right from wrong. And they are suing. That's the first step. But you got to stand together and not just say, someone said, oh, they're just doing ICE, protests outside. That's all that is, and dismissed it. I mean, it was straight up like a cover-up. No, it was federal workers. It was some Mexican people out there. I would ignore that. But it was, people out there ticked because they lost their jobs. It was everybody out there protesting, and I'm quite sure in the future there's going to be more people out there as these jobs start shrinking up. Leverage. And for people that are telling you, oh, just ignore it, yeah, until it's you. There's a lot of black people that work for federal agencies a lot. And as it starts to trickle down, and if this continues, anger will mount. You know, they always tell them, go get that good government job. You know, you can always get a job at the post office. And I'm not sure if, that's what they told black folk years ago anyway. And I'm not sure if the post office still is under the government or if they're privatized, but in any situation, because, they go back and forth with that, we're in trouble too. So you're still in denial. You know that we're always the most vulnerable. They want to ignore now in school systems all of our type of classifications, which give us, the money that we deserve for all of the things that we have to endure, and pretend like they don't exist, because white supremacy has now declared that all textbooks are stupid that mention race or any type of inequality. Are you serious? That's DEI. Anybody who's over here thinking that this sounds absolutely ridiculous, give yourself, a wealth of applause. It is idiotic to think things at this point, when they've gotten this bad, are going to get better by themselves. They can only get worse. And the only way that we can do something about it, first and foremost, is to stop denying it. And I'm sorry, I've seen this denial over and over and over again. And it just continues and continues and continues, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not here for that. They want to make everybody vulnerable so they can pick on them, harass them, anything they're intimidated by. Poke, 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 poke. We can't find this, but you owe some money on that, don't you? I can harass you this way, but you might be an immigrant. I can harass you this way. Well, you got somewhere to live because the house prices are through the roof. I can increase that percentage on your mortgage. I can make sure that rent's too high. I can make sure these food prices in the store are too high. And we're not even mentioning stuff like, RSV, COVID, the flu altogether. All of this is culminating into one big ball of a mess. Bird flu. And if all that hits on top of this, it's just boom, I'm just saying, take it one step at a time, but don't get up here and run behind, as they called him, Daddy Trump or something. I can't even relate to that. That's a patriarchal nightmare, if that were my father. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm saying you in politics and I'm calling you daddy. I shouldn't be, as a grown person, calling anybody daddy that's not in my bedroom. Hello? And I'm going to just leave it at that. So anyway, I got to go. I'll talk to you guys later. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening to my latest podcast. I hope that you guys will check in and won't just hide. You're so afraid of demonization. Somebody's going to find you, because you actually listened to someone who was actually smart for once. Hey, I don't take it personally because I know way better than that. But I'll talk to you guys in the next one, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm out. Bye.